Okay, A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah, we're very blessed today that Allah has gathered us here and also online to be with our special guest, Professor Dr. Harlina Halizah Siraj, who has come all the way from Malaysia to be with us in Sheffield for tonight, alhamdulillah. And inshallah, we hope to share some precious gems, or Dr. Har will share some precious gems with us about our topic tonight, which is women as agents of change. Inshallah, before we start, I'd like to invite everyone to start the gathering with Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. Inshallah, before we start, I'd like to first of all introduce our beloved speaker, Dr. Har. Professor Dr. Harlina Halizah Siraj is a professor of Obstetrics and Gynaecology and also medical education at Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, or UKM, as well as a consultant in Obstetrics there. She was previously awarded a Saiditina Khadijah Award during the 1432 Maal Hijrah Ceremony by Selangor State Government for her contribution in medical and social activism. Dr. Har was also president of Malaysian Association for Maternal and Neonatal Health, or MAMANEH, from 2009 to 2011 and from 2015 to 2017. Dr. Har is also previously Deputy Head of Women's Wing, Pertubuhan IKRAM Malaysia from 2010 to 2014, and also prior to that, National Head of Women's Wing, Pertubuhan Jamaah Islam Malaysia, or JIM, from 1999 to 2009. She's also been chairperson of the Board of Director of Raudatus Sakinah from 1999 to 2014. And Dr. Har is currently a member of IKRAM National Representative Council, or DPN, since 2010. So mashallah, I think that's probably just a little bit of actually what Dr. Har has been involved in and currently involved in. Dr. Har is also married with 3 children, 2 of whom are with her today, alhamdulillah, on her visit around UK, and another son in Malaysia who's currently having his exams. So inshallah, we'll make dua for him. So inshallah, Dr. Har, I mean, just looking at or listening to your background and what you've been involved in, it seems that you have managed a lot on your plate, being a career woman, a wife, a mother, and also actively involved in society, and also in a very active and a large NGO in Malaysia, which is IKRAM. And just looking at the topic today, which is women as agents of change, it's basically about the role of women in society. And inshallah, those listening tonight, maybe there are some men, but mostly will be sisters, will be women. Some of us who are single or studying here, or maybe even listening from Malaysia. And there are some of us who are already married. There are some of us who have children already. So, and from many walks of life, from different educational backgrounds, from different different backgrounds and nationalities, and maybe even from other countries than Malaysia. But basically, we are all women, and we play such a big role in society. And as we know, when we look at today's society, there are so many things to worry about. The social problems in society. I worry for my children, worry about our future, looking at, babies being born out of wedlock, being thrown, being killed, rape, incest, and the decline in social, the increase, in fact, in social problems in the society today. So basically, can we change all this? As women, sometimes we feel so helpless looking at the current problems in society. At the same time, how can we change this? And delay in realizing that actually we can be those agents of change, creating a future that is inshallah better for us and also our children inshallah. So with that, I hope that Dr. Har will share her precious gems of knowledge with us tonight as to how women can be agents of change inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First and foremost, thank you, Sister Dr. Munira, for the kind introduction, and to all the sisters and brothers who's actually listening to this input today. I guess this topic about women as agent of change has always been discussed time and again. I think I've been talking about that for the past 20 years, and my children can be, you know, the witness for that. Okay. But again, I guess the topic is always evergreen, and we need to sort of look into the perspective of how women can be an agent of change, particularly for positive changes, and it has to start within the women themselves. So since we are going to talk about women, I wonder whether you really know who you are. So for that, I would make an attempt to have an online quiz, and that would be all of you taking your handphone now. Okay. Which one? Okay, let's start. Okay, we'll just make this attempt. Yeah. Can you see that? All right. Now, all of you can actually go to this Kahoot. Okay. All right. You can go to kahoot.it. Right. Hold on. Kahoot.it. Yeah. And that is your game team. 5863062. Okay, and you can, they will ask you for a nickname. You can just put in your nickname and you see your name on that. Okay, let's start. That's fine. Alright. Okay. If there's some technical problem, we need to. Nampak enggak? Okay, it's okay, just bear with us. Some technical problem. Okay, the application. Okay. Well, if you cannot come up in the hangout, I think we should call this off lah. Okay? Boleh? I'm sorry lah. Just stop je tu.
Oh, tadi. Boleh. Boleh. Lambatlah dekat. Oh, dia kena lambat.
Okay, are you all there?
Okay.
Okay, now okay, kahoot.it. Okay, I'm now inviting all of you to come to that screen. This is just to see how women can be an agent of change. We cannot do this, then we cannot be an agent of change. Alright. Okay. We cannot be just 3 players. Alright, thank you. White.
You mesti baru nak ni.
Thank you. Siapa Bella Zainul around here? Anyone here? No? Alright, so this one must be online. Okay. I think I'll start when the number of players reach 20. 20. Well, we'll see. 10.
It is another 2.
Okay, come on in. So this is how many of you have actually played this? No, okay. Now alright, there will be the questions on the screen. and on your handphone will be just the choices or the options of the answers. It's going to be represented by colors and shapes. You know, it can be red and a circle. All right. Okay. Yeah. It's okay. You can just start first and see how it goes. How much do you know about women? Actually, okay. 7 questions. Yeah. Okay. Choose the most accurate definition of a woman. Okay. Hold on. Huh? You should be just appearing after this. Is it? Lama dia play balik. Oh dia.
Oh no.
Kenapa? Okay, we give this a try again. Okay, sorry guys, but we're wasting a lot of time lah. Macam mana? Okay ke?
How to start?
Sorry. It's okay. I can cram up all the talks within that 1 hour. But we have to do this. Otherwise, we cannot be agent of change. Okay, come. Alright. Okay. Yeah, how much do you know about, women? Choose the most accurate definition of a woman. Okay, an emotional creature, a female, a human being who can be pregnant, or a man's partner. Okay, you have 10 more seconds. So you can choose your choices or your choice of answers. Okay, that's it. Alright. The only answer that I accept is going to be a human being who can be pregnant. Alright, for those who actually answer, the green answer, a man's partner, I'm glad that you are here with me, because you have to stop defining yourself with relation to men. You know, you're a man's partner, you're a man's wife, you're all attached yourself to a man. So even defining who a woman is, you still have to have a man's, a man name somewhere there. So that is really not near. For those who says that a female, you are just, trying to play around with words, because that's just another alternative for women. But for those who think that we are an emotional creature, are you denying that men are also emotional? Yeah? So it's not just you being the emotional creature. Yeah. So okay, let's see who actually won this. Wow, Adam. Okay. All right. Okay. Next. Which of the symbol represents a woman? Okay. So is this A, or B, or C, or D? Well, in case you go to a toilet and most probably, it does not put a man or a woman signage there, but it's just a symbol. Okay, just attempt. Right, okay. The answer is D, yeah. So this is actually in the symbol of woman, but A is actually a symbol of man. Okay, so then, but of course, but fortunately, nobody actually put a B, which is the yin yang symbol, and of course C is the start and off. Okay, all right. Okay, let's see who actually won. Oh, Madam again, eh? Okay, I'm not going to give you any gift like 3 weeks holiday in Phuket or anything. Eh? Okay, what are the total number of chromosomes? In a woman's cell. Okay, so is it 23X, 46XX, 46XY, or Y? Okay, then of course. Well, this okay, a doctor might have an advantage, but all of us should know this. Okay, right. 46XX, that is actually the total chromosome for a woman. 46XY is actually for men. And 43Y or 43X is actually haploid sperms or ovum, yeah? So that is actually just half of the 46 chromosome. Oh, madam, yeah, okay. Now name the female reproductive organs. Okay, I'm going to show you, this is our reproductive organ, and it's A, the fallopian tube, B, cervix, C, vagina, and D, body of the uterus. Well, you choose which one, which is correct. Okay, it may be more than one true answers here. Okay, right. The only false one is actually A, which is not the fallopian tube, you know, it is actually the ovary. Oh my God. So, well, D is actually the body of the uterus, B is actually the cervix, and this is the vagina, yeah? All right. Oh dear, look at that. Okay, Muadam might have not given the right answer here. Okay, now statement. Men and women think differently because of differences in their brain structure. Do you agree with this? Disagree, agree, abstain, or none of my business? Okay. Okay. So this is not really right or wrong, but I would rather nobody put none of my business. And you really have to have some opinion here. So well, people believe that there is actually a different in structure, particularly the corpus callosum that join the two hemisphere left and right. For women, it used to be thicker. You know, that's why we are more multitasking. And for men, they said that it is thin. So that's why that contribute to them being monotaskers, yeah? So I do not know whether that's really, but that's what has been sort of studied, yeah? Munira again, and okay. Question 6, Quranic verse indicating the differences in the conduct of men and women. Is it Al-Baqarah, verse 30, Al-Layl, verse 3 and 4, Al-Hujurat, verse 14, or An-Nisa, verse 128? Yeah. It is actually Al-Layl. وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى. But unfortunately, only one answer that. And the rest, well, An-Nisa, it's always like that. You know, people tend to just put An-Nisa because that's happen to be, you know, a verse on women. So obviously that is not. Okay, An-Nisa verse 128 is actually related to men being nushus and not just women. Okay, so well, you have to go back to your Quranic reading here. Okay, so Munira. Okay, now this is the last one. Do you agree with this description of the 21st century woman? She should be strong, independent, proud of her uniqueness, blah, blah, blah. So just go through that and I just want to know your opinion. Do you agree with this or you don't? Or whatever. You do, yeah? Well, okay, so there's actually, you know, varieties of answer. You can choose to agree or you don't, but actually that is how most of the 21st century has in store for women. So let's see who actually won. Yeah, Munira. So you got the gold medal, yeah? And then followed by Umi Adam. Okay, now let's go back to our Okay. All right. Okay then. So I hope you realize how much you do not know about women. Okay? Even though you yourself are women, basically, but there is something more a kind of reflection to sort of test how much we know about ourselves. Yeah, and when you're talking about women as an agent of change, then you're actually talking about women having that ability to change something. Yeah, and in my talk, I would just go through a few things. Yeah, most probably in the beginning, reflecting on why do how do women stand in the eyes of God. I think that's very important. And then we talked about men in the eyes of men, women in the eyes of men, because even though we do not want to sort of think so much about that, but that's actually how things are. So, and later on we see what is actually the situation in the world today for women, and how do we as Muslim women look into all these challenges. If that is okay, yeah. All right. So maybe we can go to the slide first. Okay. You nak tu jawab the question answer tu ke? Nak jawab kan? Okay. I hope you can see my slide now. Yeah. Basically, this is yeah. Okay, this is, as I said, an overview creation of the first woman, the expected roles and function, and the position and status of women, and we'll see in the society what are the concerns, and let's talk about empowerment of women, yeah? Because I think that is the most important thing before you can start talking about changing what is around you. Yeah? Okay. Okay, as I said, this is how we define women. This is from the Wikipedia, and you can see that how we differ from men is that we has been destined to be able to deliver babies. Yeah? So, and that actually another human being called man. Yeah, and but for a doctor like me, this is what I understand about women. Yeah, definitely we are who we are because of this 46XX. And with the extra X chromosome, we are given by God to have this very special reproductive organs, namely the uterus, the fallopian tubes, the ovaries. And because of that, we, so because of that, we actually have to do our role, as, no, this is another. That is to become pregnant. And of course, after we have conceived our baby, we have to deliver that baby out, whether you like it or not. And after that, you cannot just give your baby to your husband for breastfeeding. The baby still have to come to you for the role of nutrition, for breastfeeding and all. So that is actually the 3 tasks which is uniquely yours. And this kind of reproductive function has been looked upon as either something which is at your advantage or a disadvantage. So many of us look at this as our downfall. This is actually the liability of women, because women have to be pregnant, then we have to, bear the pain and the suffering of childbirth, and then after that, we have to sort of breastfeed. This seems to be putting women at one area where it is not accessible for progress, and most likely that is the most the opinion that most radical feminists would hold to. That's why they look at motherhood rather than something which is revered and sacred. It is being looked upon as a liability. Yeah. So So, and this is another definition, the most confusing creature that got put on the face of the earth. I guess this is the definition by maybe some men. Now, well, being women, we have all this body, mind, heart, and soul, and definitely we are social animals. So, also have this social element within us, and we cannot sort of leave any of this at home. You cannot like say, no, I forgot to bring my mind. I'll leave it behind. No, you sort of have it all. Yeah, and of course, this is actually the hierarchy of human needs. We know that we also have all these needs, particularly when you are up here, reality, creativity, and this is when you ask yourself, why am I here? What am I supposed to do as a human being? So this is a very brief account on the creation of women from the perspective of many religions or culture, The Greek thought, this is what the Greeks said about the first woman, Pandora. Of course, it is not just that brand Pandora, in the malls, but this is actually the first woman who's been created by Zeus, one of the gods, was supposed to sort of help Zeus get revenge for Prometheus, and this is when Pandora was given a box, and where there is all the evils in this world in that box, and when Pandora opened the box, and all the evil actually coming out. So that's what we call as Pandora's box, and another one is about this African folk tale, whereby these are 3 men who went to Gwande, their god, and asking for a horse, dogs, and the 3rd man actually asked for a woman, and the main reason is to quench my thirst. So this is actually why you see all African women will always be going from the river to their house with, carrying water. Yeah, so that's the main function of women most probably at that time. Of course, when they left Gwande and they get stranded in the rain, and suddenly the woman look after them, cook for them, and the other men who actually had the horse and the dogs wishes for women as well. So Gwande, what Gwande did was just changing the horse to become a woman and the dogs to become women as well. But then they realized that the woman who used to be the horse turns out to be woman who used to be the dogs are mean, but the first woman, the first ever woman is actually the mother of humankind. So you can see that there is actually, in this two story, you can see that women has always been associated with evil, with something which is causing some, it is not really a very positive impression of women, yeah. So and that is not surprising that in Christianity, women being created for Adam, and this is the summary of Genesis, when the male was given the dominion and authority over God's created world, and in other words, he bears the role of ruler, and woman's desire shall be for your husband, says God to woman after the fall, and he shall rule over you. So there's the dominion, or the authority of man over woman has always been justified by all this story and culture that we have to deal with. So this is about Christianity, and well, this is I hope we realize this is actually an English poem. It's not really a hadith. Woman was created from the rib of man, not from his head to top him, neither from his feet to be stepped upon. I remember in my English class we used to sort of memorize this, and this is not really a hadith, okay? But this is always been sort of in order to sort of indicate the lower status of women sometimes, and then we are being sort of reminded that we are being created from the rib of man, unfortunately not from his pelvic bone or something like that, yeah. But of course in Islam we know that Allah actually created us, yeah, together with men, and from that we bear more children, and this is always associated with piety to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now as for the roles and function, yeah, well, this is our 21st century women, up and away, superwoman, bold attempts to do it all. She goes and goes, she does and does. And at the same time, we have to be super wife and super mom. Yeah, and I know this is very familiar for all of you. But at the same time, we have to be professional. So that's what Dr. Munir was asking me just now, more or less indicating in the beginning that I have so many things in my plate. Yeah. But you know why? This is actually how we function, yeah? So the first question, what woman in the eyes of God, where do we stand? So we realize that, Allah actually created us differently. This is in Al-Lail, verse 3 and 4. وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى. So certainly your effort and deed are diverse, yeah? We are different, yet we are equal and special. And of course, in the eyes of Allah, we have our spiritual equality, because Allah is going to accept our deed, be it man or woman, yeah. And of course, when Allah said in Surah Ar-Rum, verse 21, this is actually the objective of our union between men and women, that is for tranquility, sakinah, mawaddah, and rahmah, yeah. And of course, the popular hadith about the sacred position of mothers, your mother, your mother, your mother, then only your father, yeah. And within the sphere of our life, we are definitely equal partners to men in our family life, in community and nation building, and that is being stated in the Quran. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in the Quran, it is very clear that we have the same responsibility, we have the same role, we actually have the same concern, yeah. And of course, if knowledge is actually the way to go, then men and women, have the responsibility to seek knowledge and to use that knowledge for the betterment of this ummah. Well, I'm sure, yeah, there's also the main reason why we try to push our limits wherever we can. Yeah, and so in summary, women in the eyes of Allah, we stand tall and proud together with men. You know, there's no way that, you know, we are seen as a second-class citizen or taking a back seat in this role. But how about the women in the eyes of men? So if I go around and ask, they will always say, oh, women in the eyes of men will always be looked upon as, you know, secondary, you know, and we're being subordinated, subjugated, whatever, you know. But to me, well, you have to let me know whether if you don't agree with this. But I think women in the eyes of men depends solely on how women view themselves. Okay, so before we stop, we complain and whine and always brag about how men mistreat us. I guess you have to look at yourself first. And how do you look at yourself? Okay, so in that case, well, this is an analogy, a very popular Malay analogy that women are like cucumbers. Wanita ibarat mentimun, tergolek luka, bergolek peluka. Let me translate that for you. Women are like cucumbers, you know, because of our thin skin, we get scratched easily. Either we are being, you know, we are rolling on our own, or we being, you know, being rolled upon, you know, so we get scratched very easily. And this is to indicate how vulnerable we are, you know. So we don't really have our own standing, or we don't really have our own you know, position to and voice. And if I ask, okay, then how about men? And say, oh, men, they are like the king of the fruit, the durian, you know. Not the smell most probably, but durian, you know, even though it's rolling and it's being rolled, you know, it is because of the thick skin, okay? But I guess this is an analogy that I would really like to question, because how about this? This is actually soursop, but in our language it is called durian blender. You know, it's another form of durian. Or if that durian become tempoyak or become paste, so the cucumber will be just, you know, definitely it's more superior than the tempoyak or the paste. You know, so this kind of analogy to me should just go out of the window. Yeah. How about this? Women are like burning candles. I hate this analogy because I always wonder, why do we have to be burning candles? And if you're just, you know, 6 inches long, then at the end of that whips, you will just flutter off, you know. And what is left is that dirty remnant of candle that is not even recyclable. So I guess this is really, we don't really have to be candles. This is a very popular view about women being sexual objects. Yeah. So when you're talking about empowerment of women, what are we talking about actually? Yeah. And for this, we must sort of course, this is when we go into women's right and women's wrong, most probably. Yeah. But this is what is the meaning of empowerment? It is actually giving the person an ability to stand for themselves, you know, and speak for themselves. And this is actually when you're talking about empowerment of Muslim women, particularly, we have to talk within this spectrum. Yeah. In the extreme right, this is actually the traditionalist and the conservative view, where definitely, you know, men has been regarded as more superior to women, and they would have come up with all these verses from the Quran to justify Ar-Rijal Qawwamun al-Nisa, you know, just to justify that they are more superior, and they dominate women in all the area. I know of, you know, a committee for the women's welfare. It's being headed by brothers because, well, women cannot take the you know, leadership role. Okay? And this group of people are unfortunately insensitive towards the plight of Muslim women. You know, we still have domestic violence, we have, you know, illiteracy, we have poor healthcare, but they will always, if we actually confront them and say, why is this happening to women, whereby in the Quran and the Prophet actually ask us to look after women 3 times more, you know, to respect women more, and the answer will always be, well, you see, it's not really Islamic. ideal Islam would be, yeah, they're talking about ideal, but in reality, that is not happening. So let me just give an example of hijab, the attitude towards hijab. For this group, okay, hijab is intended to protect men's faith or men's morality. And this is a very much Judeo-Christian views. Well, to protect men's faith and men's morality, then women has to be covered. So that is actually still because of men's, the reason is always focused on men, yeah? And these are the group of people who, whenever there's rape case being reported, they would first questions the victim, yeah? And if you realize rape is the only crime where when it happened, the one's being questioned is always the victim. It's not the perpetrator, you know? Let's say you have a snatch theft, or you will always sympathize to the, towards the victims, but not rape. It is always like, how was she dressed up, you know? Oh, she just wear very scantily, also her right. No, she just asked to be raped. You know, so this is the view, you know, a very, I would say a very sexist view on women. Now, when you have this kind of traditionalist and conservative, then of course, it's just a matter of time before the whole pendulum will swing to the other side, and you have the liberalist and radicalist feminists. Yeah, so there's a lot of terms coming out tonight. Yeah, I guess if you want to be agent of change, you have to be ready for this. Yeah, not just all the cooking menus and recipes. Yeah. And this, I think, this is quite interesting, because I'm now looking into how Catholicism, Christian Catholics, actually come up with their Protestant counterpart. This is mainly because of the oppression, yeah, and it is when religion is being used to sort of justify everything. Okay, so definitely people will protest, and this is, to me, in terms of women empowerment, this is how women came out from that very oppressive, you know, environment. So they start to define justice and rights on the Western perspective of individual rights, yeah. And Islam or any religion in that matter is just cultural or traditional component of life. And hijab has always been looked upon as a symbol of oppression, subjugation, subordination, submission to men. So those are the big words, yeah? So we have to sort of balance this with this group of reformists in the middle, of whom I call musliha, not just salihah, but musliha, the one who is good and the one who also, you know, rejoice others to do good. And this group of people, this group of musliha or reformists, they define justice and rights or wrong based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is when we realize that we women has been given, you know, enough standing to take our place in the society, and that away from us, that we stand on our ground and we advocate social justice. We will say that, you know, vice definitely not Islamic, yeah. Forcing women to sort of not to be married off early and not to have all not more or less promoted by Islam. Female genital mutilation is more cultural than Islamic, yeah. And when you look at hijab, you know, I'm just giving hijab as an example for all these three groups. It is being looked upon as an identity or symbol of submission, or I would put it like it's a uniform. And I choose to wear this uniform because just like, you know, if you choose to be working in any uniform, you are sort of abide by all the, you know, the framework and the rules and regulations. So I volunteer, and I actually, it's not being forced upon me to wear this hijab. However, I remain to be very open and inclusive. I can work with a person who is even naked. I don't care, you know. But and that doesn't, you know, make me feel uncomfortable, you know. So this is actually where we should be, and try to balance this out. But before I move on, if you decide that you want to be right in the middle, so you have to realize that the traditionalist group will always look at you as a feminist or a liberalist. That is, you know, because your view is definitely belonging to the liberal, you know? But the liberalists will always look at you as a traditionalist, okay, as a conservative. Harlina really speaks very, very well on this, but she's still wearing hijab. Okay, so she's still very subordinated and subjugated by her husband or her father. So, well, I guess it is time to say that, yeah, we are coming to the world as an agent of change, and we don't subscribe to any of these two. We have our own profile, yeah? So I'm just giving this to see that, in a situation where everything is so oppressive, this might be where you would go, the first Muslim model that strip off for Playboy magazine, just to say that, this is how I want to be seen. This is my freedom. So I do not know where is Sahih nowadays. If you happen to meet her, can you just ask her how free she feels nowadays? Yeah. But of course, for a woman who covers from head to toe, we are always being seen upon to be devoting ourselves to her man. But if most likely our sisters in the Christian faith wearing as how the nun are wearing, they are devoting themselves to God. So then that is actually the double standard. Yeah. I had my own experience. I went for my fellowship in Minneapolis in the year 2000. Yeah. When I stepped into the Department of ONG and Women's Health, University of Minneapolis school. So they were saying that, oh, Halima, you can take off your headscarf. Your husband is not here. Your father is not here. So I said, and what made you think that I'm wearing this because of them? And they were very surprised that, oh, you're not? Because apparently the Muslim doctor who came before me, she came from a country where she was supposed to be all covered up in her country, but when she was there, she was definitely not wearing her hijab, and of course that puzzled them. And when she was asked, her answer was that, oh, my husband is not here, my father is not here. Apparently, she was wearing it because the husband says so. So that gives an impression that all of us here are wearing this because our husband initially insisted on that. So as I said, how men look at us is depending on how you look at yourself, okay? So this is actually one of it. Now, this is the most important part of this talk, yeah? Any one of you who had the opportunity to get hold of this book, Muslim Women at the Crossroad, written by Dr. Zina Kausar, this is a very important extract from that. Let me just read through. Muslim women seem to be stranded at the crossroad, with extreme feminism on one side and ethno-cultural traditionalism on the other, both trying to crush them into bits. Hence, it is argued that Muslim women need not have to be entangled in the feminist models and theories of liberation, development, and empowerment, nor do they need to be the sad victims of ethno-cultural traditionalism. So this is actually summarizing what I just described to you about the, how are we going to sort of fight for, or more or less put forward our agenda of change. So, sorry, I keep on pressing on the wrong button. Okay. So it is pertinent for them to be critical and reflective and hold fast to the Islamic model of women's empowerment, which is both beneficial, yeah, to us, Muslim women, and to the whole society. It is high time for Muslim women to be forthrightly assertive of their rights, which Islam has given them, so that they become the dynamic and ingenious architects of healthy and peaceful families, societies, and civilizations. So for us to be agent of change, this is actually what we have to do. You have to first look at yourself, not as a set victims of, this is what is, your culture, your tradition. Yeah, but at the same time, we don't have to subscribe to the liberal feminist view. So for empowering a woman, the best model, according to the Quran and Sunnah, would be coming back to your purpose of existence. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And how do we do that? Actually, by being, Allah's representative, Khalifatul Ard. So that is actually our role. And of course, our main focus is actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in salat wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin, and this is my proposal. Okay, how do we actually empower women? We have to look at the methodology of Rasulullah SAW when Islam was first sent to that society, that Bedouin society of the time, women has been looked upon as second-class citizen. So what Rasulullah SAW did, there's actually the baseline of Iman and Ihsan. And for those who are being downtrodden or those who have been oppressed, the teaching of Islam actually enhanced their izzah or their self-esteem. And so the oppressed and the suppressed they actually raised up to the standard of believing that there's no man should make another man slave, but we are all only slaves of Allah. Yeah? So that actually brings you the confidence and the self-esteem. But at the same time, for those who used to be, you know, the big bully in the society, who keep on subordinating other people, their ego and their grandiosity were actually lowered and coming down to that baseline. And this is where the two components of the society come together. You know, so lowering the ego and grandiosity of the proud and enhancing the izzah or self-esteem of the oppressed and the suppressed. So we come to that. So this is actually how we have to work things out, yeah? And of course, we are being reminded by Prophet ﷺ last sermon, where there's a special paragraph on women. You know, it is true that you have certain rights in regards to your women, but they also have rights to you. Remember that you have taken them as your wife only under Allah's trust and with His permission. If they abide, to them belongs the right to be fed and clothed in kindness. Do treat your women well and be kind to them, for they are your partners and committed efforts. I guess this is something that we must remind ourselves, men and women, that we have this role to do this together. Yeah. Now, I'm sure we keep on going back to this hadith of woman is like a reed, you know. If you attempt to straighten it, you will break it, and if you benefit from her, you will do so while crookedness remains in her. So I guess this is something coming up from a doctor. I need to remind you that what is the function of a rib? You know, it is actually to make up the rib cage, and this rib cage is actually protecting the most important two organs in your human body, which is the heart and the lung. So for it to be crooked, it has to be bent. It has to be bent with different angles, you know. The first rib is not the same as the seventh rib. And it has to be like that in order to serve its function. So since when do we think that crookedness is bad and only thing which is straight is good? I'm sure even men wouldn't want their ribs, the bone, to be straight and becoming female or humorous in that matter. You know, so for it to be, if it's supposed to function in its crookedness, then it has to be crooked. So, so this is actually something that we have to remind ourselves, that women is just how we are, as unique as we are, you know, and we don't intend to change. Yeah, take it or leave it. So the way ahead, yeah, definitely we are like the sun. We are not like the burning candle. We are not like the cucumber or whatever. We are like the burning sun. It's actually a ball of energy, and you know, energy doesn't die off. It just changes into another form of energy. Yeah, and that is what we are. Okay, and of course, this is our 5-star icon, iconoblastic, which is Saiditina Khadijah Award, where her exemplary role actually serves, you know, Aqidah. She was the first one to believe in Rasulullah SAW. His emotional serenity and tranquility, his physical vitality, his spiritual enhancement, his cognitive strength. So you don't have to look around for other role model. Unfortunately, I do not know whether that happens in other part of the world. But from, you know, I remember being young and being sort of reminded that a salihah would be somebody who will not question the husband and who always serve the husband. And even a woman, I will always say, wow, it all depends on him, you know. So, and I remember this story. I do not know whether you have heard about this story, of Muti'ah, or Siti Muti'ah, the one that was told who's going to enter Jannah before Saiditina Fatimah Zahra. So, the story goes like, Fatimah was being informed that there is going to be a woman who is going to enter Jannah before her. So she was very curious, and she actually went to see this woman. But this woman did not grant her permission to into her house, because she had, she has not asked the husband about receiving a guest. So she told Fatima to actually go back, and I'll come back again tomorrow after I have asked for my husband's permission. But the next day, Fatima came by with Hassan or Hussein along, and this woman, this so-called Muti'ah, said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just actually asked my husband for you. The permission is only for you, but now you have brought your son, so I cannot allow you to come in." So only after the third day that, Fatima can actually enter the house. And as she was talking, suddenly Muti'ah, just ignore Fatima, was preparing herself and, stood by the door holding, a glass of water in her left hand, and I'm sure you know about this, another stick on the right hand, and so the story goes, most probably exposing her, her thigh, or not really thigh, maybe her ankle or something like that, just to indicate. This is something which is quite strange for Fatima. Fatima said, "What are you doing?" So I'm waiting for my husband to come home, and this is to indicate that when I'm all ready for him, he's thirsty, so this is the glass of water. And if he wants to have me, then he can have me now. I'm ready for him. And if in any way I did something wrong while he was gone, then this is the stick for him to, most probably to hit me because he's unhappy with me. So even at that time, I was like, gosh, this is the Saleh that I feel very much, I don't associate myself with that kind of woman. This is really out of, definitely not me. And I was thinking, even if that is so, and let's say the husband, is another Saleh, to be sort of surprised to see the wife standing there with the stick in her hand, and say, what is that for? Oh, this is for you, my darling, to hit me if you feel unhappy. I said, God, goodness gracious, I will never do that, because the Prophet never beat anyone, So just stop this foolish thing, okay? So, but most of we are not thinking that way. We always say, there is actually the role model. And the story actually indicates that Muti'ah was supposed to be the one who's I think holding the holding the horse that is going to bring the carriage of Fatima into Jannah. So that's why Muti'ah was actually the first one to enter Jannah. Now, of course, I have access to ask, Shifa to check with the professors whether this is really an authentic hadith, but definitely they couldn't find it. So it most probably, just a story or something being created by just to glorify Fatima. Allah Alam, but it is not. But unfortunately, that is actually the story that has been going around to sort of indicate for women that we have to be like that. Yeah. So, in summary, Muslim women, you have to be silent no more, speak out your mind, voice out your opinions, and reclaim your exalted position in the society. At my age, I've done this, okay? So, for any one of you who's still not doing this, I'm going to ask you, why are you not doing it yet? Okay, so definitely we need to break all this by educating ourselves, yeah? And because once you educate, you definitely will improve a lot of things in the society. Okay, so let me just summarize this. So Islam positioned women in a highly esteemed level, and to improve status of women, health, or welfare in Muslim countries. Intervention would include provision of basic education, hygienic environment, basic health facilities. Well, what do you expect coming from a doctor? Yeah, and then Muslim women must reclaim our position in nation building. Just want to share with you this. If women rule the world, there would be no wars. Just a bunch of jealous countries not talking to each other. But I think that's, yeah. So I guess that's all, Munira. I hope to sort of receive some questions, and then maybe if I cannot answer that, I can answer around. There's so many people here to me. Okay.
Okay, Alhamdulillah, thank you, Dr. Har. My first feeling is that the men should also be listening to this talk. Because as much as I think, it's very important for us as women to understand our role as women, some of us are already married, or even if we are not yet married, we are in so maybe working with men, or will be married in the future. And I guess it takes both, doesn't it?
Sure.
To create that society and to understand each other's roles, which I think the uniqueness of Islam is that it's not that men and women are equal as the feminists want to fight for, which is, women have to be same like men, because it is to say as if men is the KPI, whereas it's not. It's like men is special, woman is special, and we both equal in different ways.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be men. I wouldn't allow men to be my benchmark.
Yeah,
that's not.
Yeah, so it's different and equal at the same time. So I think one thing is how do we, maybe while if there's any questions from anybody here, and while we're waiting for questions to come in, how could we also make this, realization to the men around us? Because sometimes maybe we are trying to be that woman who are, trying to be agents of change in ourselves, in our family, in the society around us, in our workplace, in our neighborhoods. But then if the men do not understand the hindrance, or also, you may sometimes feel as if it's wrong to do that, because...
I got it. Okay, that question is very, 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 this is a FAQ, there's a frequently asked questions. And I guess I wouldn't want... well, to me, it depends on you. So we have to be more impressive, ladies, We have to be more attractive to men, in a sense that not on our physical attraction, but what is most attractive to men? Our brain, our intelligence. So it's not just our beautiful face, beautiful mind, our beautiful emotion, and our beautiful soul. So not a pretty mind, pretty emotions, and beautiful soul. So and to me, nothing is more. I would say the shortcut to that would be by equipping yourself with knowledge, and that is most probably the main reason why Muslim women are definitely not there yet, because their knowledge and the exposure is not really impressive enough, So we have to equip ourselves with knowledge. We start to talk very intelligently, and okay. Let me just put it this way. Make your husband or the man in your life proud of you. Okay? And they don't feel threatened with your intelligence, I just guess men who are threatened with their wife's intelligence or wife being better than them are very insecure men. Okay? You should be proud of your wife or your children or your daughter who seems to be doing very well. And I guess that's one way of raising up men and women in our society. Okay, well, I just going to say it outright. Those who are more or less always the stumbling block of my progress, or so-called, is always men who are insecure. So they seems to be looking at you, having these ideas and knowing what you want, is something that is threatening. So we have to let men know that, what, brother, I know you intend well, their intention are very well, very well and good. They do not want us to be burdened by all this leadership. But we have to tell them, thank you and no thank you, brother, because the reason why Allah created us half of the population is not just to be seen. But remember, we are not just half of the population. We deliver the other half of population. Okay, so we are just, when you educate a man, you're educating an individual. But when you educate a woman, you're educating a generation. Right? So, and I guess it's high time we realize that the key for progress in this society and in this world is by empowering the women. Investing in the woman, okay? So, well, it's okay. I guess, of course, naturally, you want men to listen to this. Not to listen to this from my mouth, it sounds very nagging in nature, doesn't it? But you yourself, everyone, each one of you, there are about 23 years now, each and every one of you now, you have to ask yourself, how are you going to convey this to the man in your life? To your father, almost right now, because your husband is actually the most important person, navigating this life with you and your children. And how are you going to convince your husband? You know what, Bang? I know. I guess I have to be more proactive in this. And you've done so much, but I guess it would not be the most optimum until and unless I join the band. So and that is why sometimes brothers who are so worried that the wife get quite active in the society. I say, oh gosh, it's very interesting to be married to a very clever woman. So it is definitely very interesting. Okay, and for women who have opinions, and we will actually exchange opinions, yeah, and be proud. So I guess it starts in our family, because that is also how you're going to raise your girls. Right? I fortunately happen to be raised by a father who see the potential of girls. Okay, and even during my time where girls not really sort of allowed to be as high, flying high as boy, but my sisters actually went abroad during the time where most parents wouldn't want to allow that. I remember my father was asked, how come you allow your daughter to actually go to Sheffield, actually to study? My sister, my eldest sister actually came to Sheffield in the year 1974 or 73, being the first girl batch who came over to do engineering. And I remember my father said, I have raised my children, boys and girls, the same. And I know that my daughter can survive forever because I actually raised them up just the same. So I guess that is a very important a very important message there, that we have been raised not to doubt ourselves. You see, any more question? If not, I'm going to talk about another component of this, where women always sort of doubt themselves, and this is called the Cinderella complex. Yeah. You see, the famous Cinderella, she's pretty, she's smart, she's kind, but she allows herself to be bullied by her stepmother and her stepsisters. Yeah, and well, whatever the reason is, I wouldn't have stayed in that castle or in that house. I would have just run away. Yeah, but of course, we know the story that she has to wait for her fairy godmother to come and with the magic wand to change her into somebody beautiful. And of course, there's a limitation there. When the clock struck 12, she has to leave. Otherwise, she changed into the poor girl in rags. But I would have done. I would just stay there and allow this clock struck 12 and change, and just tell the prince, this is who I am. Just now that wasn't me. If you like me, but of course, the story goes, she ran off and left behind her glass slipper. And where did she go to after that? She went back to the house. I would just take that opportunity to go off somewhere. But that is actually how women it's been portrayed. No, I'm sorry, some of you really go for this, you know. But to me, all those female figures in Disneyland story, and they are all showing all this, that women are not capable to change, you know, our fate. And so this is called Cinderella Complex by Dr. Nicolette Doling. Yeah, I think that's her name. She has this book called The Cinderella Complex, and she said women has been raised up doubting themselves. You know, they are being raised up by this environment in the context of, I don't think I can do that. You know, so we have to change that. We have to change that small voice. Of course I can do this. I have to do this. Who else will do this? Yeah. So I think that is all about changing you. So far, whenever an agent of change, you can actually thought this is actually our role. This is our. But I guess it is not going to materialize until and unless you change yourself. You know, you change the way you look at yourself. We have this two mindset, which is fixed and growth mindset, and I think it works. That is what is working in terms of women empowerment. Women has always been having this fixed mindset, saying that women cannot do this. That's already fixed mindset. But a growth mindset, well, I might not be able to do it yet, but I will learn. And if I fail, it's okay. That's a part of learning. So that is growth mindset. And growth mindset will only result in producing a very resilient you know, a rubber ball that can bounce back. But a fixed mindset is going to make you very vulnerable and fragile, and you just crumble. Yes. So,
I think it's very interesting. I think I'd like to take how your father raised you. Obviously, resulted in, you know, obviously contributed to who you are today.
Right.
And I guess can be very confusing in this day and age when you're surrounded by many mentalities and many pressures and many impressions of women. Who am I? And I think it's back to, again, knowledge and, you know, the izzah in yourself, and knowing who is the Muslim woman actually by looking at how the Prophet treated women, how the Sahabiyah who were around her, how Saiditina Khadijah who was, how Saiditina Aisha, and all the Sahabiyah, and knowing that they were very empowered women and they were very well respected in society. So again, back to knowledge.
And we have to define ourselves before others define us, you know. Unfortunately, we allow others to define us, and we feel stretched trying to conform to all this definition. It's high time we stand up, raise ourselves among all this and say, look, this is how I am. This is how I define myself. You take it or you leave it, and feel very proud of what you do, because we have all the reason to be proud, inshallah, because you know what is being taught by Islam and by Rasulullah will put us exactly at the reformist or Muslihah position, definitely, you know. And what is sad to say that if you actually move more towards the traditionalist and conservative, it's really not Islamic. It's mainly cultural, I would say. Yeah.
There are some questions that are coming through. So there's a question asking about people tending to misinterpret social anxiety with malu or with being shy or haya. So for instance, women cannot speak in front of men because they're meant to be shy, whereas actually it's more of a social anxiety that, you know, what's your opinion? So basically, you know, or we're not, you know, there's this impression that maybe women are not supposed to speak in front of men, whereas actually it's more to do with the social anxiety of speaking in front of others or in public.
Well, that is something I do not have, social anxiety, you know. I realized that long ago, being extrovert, talking like this energized me, you know, as compared to an introvert who might find this very, very tiring and taxing, yeah. Now, I guess we have to discuss about the context of our culture, where we are definitely passive culture, where we don't really encourage people to speak out. So we communicate passively. And passive. Okay, this is definitely something I have to touch about it. You know, there's actually 4 ways to communicate. One is by passive communication, and that is actually when you think other people's right counts, but yours don't. So it's always I lose, you win, and that is how we've been raised up. You know, the more obliging you are, you know, the more acceptable you will be, and for you to fit in, you just have to, yes, agree, I agree, you know. But if you are being a passive person, you will just be treated like the doormat, you know. People will just run over you because you don't really matter, because you hardly have any opinion, and that is what happened, you know. And in a passive society, women are expected to be more passive. Okay, the men are also passive, but women is supposed to be more passive. Now, in a passive society, there's definitely going to be aggressive people around, and these aggressive people have a different mindset. For them, my rights count, others don't. So I win all the time, and you lose. And if in a marriage, this is where the big bully and the victim is lah. Yeah, the husband will always be aggressive, and the wife is supposed to be passive. So, you know, this is the worst communication ever. And that's what we emulate to our children. And girls are supposed to be, you know, quieter. We don't speak out, you know, you don't supposed to sort of join in discussion. But boys can actually just run around, and then they are not, you know, they are not entitled to do this and that. So this is actually the two communication mode that we have. But remember, I'm sure you have known about assertiveness. I'm sure this is something you find it here. Okay, being assertive. Now, what is being assertive? It is not in between passive and aggressive. You know, it is actually a higher level of communication. So if you look at passive here, aggressive there, then assertive is up here. You know, so assertive is when you respect other people's rights, but at the same time you defend yours. So I win, you win, you know, and you start to learn to speak out your opinion. You definitely have to bring out your point, particularly when you see other people are not really looking into, you know, that perspective that you are concerned with, for instance. But in our society, assertiveness is not rewarded. Okay, if you are a child, you see your parents doing something wrong, and you're trying to correct that, then you know, kurang ajar, nak untuk aku, all coming out lah. But if you are in class and your teacher is doing some mistake on the whiteboard, you wouldn't dare to sort of correct him or her, because then you would be regarded as being rude. And if you're working and your boss is not doing something which is most probably what he or she should be doing, then you wouldn't dare to sort of, you know, remind or bring that up, because you might be fired the next day. Yeah. So in our society, assertiveness is not really well promoted, I would say. So how do we deal with our frustration? Particularly passive people dealing with all these aggressive people and big bullies in our life, we become passive aggressive. So that is actually the fourth mode of communication, and it is again not between passive and aggressive. It is one step below passive aggressive behavior. Now, passive aggressive behavior is counterproductive. It is not going to change anything. Now, I guess part of being an agent of change is to know how to communicate assertively, and that might need a lot of training. But I guess you are in a community where assertiveness is you know, well apparent, you know, it's a day to day. But I do not know about the culture in the British society or in UK. But if in Australia, you know, they are encouraged to be assertive. Or if you have been in state, you know, in the United States, you can just speak out whatever you want to say, you know, and then you suddenly feel the air of liberty. Then you can just say whatever you wish. And it's really a nice place to train your assertiveness. Yeah. Okay,
exactly. I mean, with my very little experience working here and studying here, that you are rewarded for being assertive. You are, in fact, you are encouraged, and you are sometimes punished if you are not assertive. You know, like, give feedback. We want critical feedback. We want, you know, tell us what you really think. We want to improve, and that's how actually improvement comes. Whereas I think when I try to be assertive in Malaysia, it's taken wrongly. It's taken as criticism. It's taken as, you know, trying to tunjuk pandai, trying to, and then obviously, but this hinders change. This hinders progress because people do not accept, you know, that they are. But anyway, inshallah, is definitely a platform where we can improve ourselves. Any before I take the next question online, is there any questions from the floor from anyone?
Anyone here? They can ask me over the spaghetti.
Okay. Inshallah. Okay. The special session. Okay, so we go to the next question online. How do we identify our niche area along with dua and istikhara and utilize it to bring a positive impact in the ummah?
Okay. Wow, that's a very bombastic question, I would say. Okay, but well, it indicates you know, your eagerness to contribute. I would like to answer that by reminding you that your profession, if you are going to graduate soon and become a professional, that is actually the most important point to start. You start to develop your career, you know. But I guess once you already get your steps, you know, everything fits in. This is the time where you start to look into volunteer work, which is not far from your profession. Okay, so how I did it, after being a doctor and a specialist, I decided that I want to look into women's affair, you know, women's welfare. And being a doctor, an obstetrician particularly, and gynecologist, I realized that women has a lot of concern when they are physically ill or having some kind of health issue. It is always the emotions, the psychological that has been sort of abused on. So I start to look at myself as the voice for women. I don't expect women who are being beaten or being abused to actually speak for themselves. It is for women like me who hardly been, you know, my husband hardly scratched me, you know, like, you know, and then this is actually, we are the one who has to fight for them. Yeah? So I decided to join the women's group, yeah, and start to get familiarized with all this issue. Of course, I can just remain to be the doctor in the hospital. I realized that I have to be the doctor of the society as well. And I totally subscribe to the idea that prevention is much better, not just better, but cheaper than cure. So I would rather be outreaching the woman before they become sick and seeing me and have to pay a lot of money for me, you know, to me. So that is when I joined with the activism. Starts to read around. I attended the Commission of Status of Women, CSW meeting in the United Nations, representing the Islamic International Committee for Women and Child. So I start to mix around with the liberalists, the feminists, you know, and this is where I understand why they are so angry with men, because most of them had very bad experience, you know, had bad treatment by their fathers or their spouse, yeah. And I realized that, oh gosh, I cannot allow the agenda of women to be led by these women, because they are definitely, of course, you will realize the passion that they have, but they are not definitely the right people, because they do not experience the upbringing, which is of a stable family and stable relationship. So I decided that I have to take my place. Now, at the same time, I'm also sort of raising my kids, my family, yeah, and I start to prioritize. I had this idea that children, when they are small, of course they need you, but you can always get assistance to sort of raise them up, okay? Because their dependence towards you is actually more of physical dependence, and also most probably cognitive dependence up to the age of 13. But once they are teenagers, they are emotionally dependent. And I actually make a deliberate choice that when my children become teenagers, when I reach the age of 40, I would focus more on education. Having had enough clinical experience, it's a big decision, because I love my clinical work, but I cannot sort of have everything in my plate. So I have to cut down on my time where I'm going on calls, I'm having all these clinics session. There is the time where we have our private practice. So I deliberately make a bold decision of not doing all that, but instead focusing more on education. So for the past 10 years, as my children growing up to be teenagers, my time is more available. I mean, more sort of I'm available for them. Yeah, I'm no longer having to spend my days and nights in the hospital, and I'm looking into education. And you know what? It is also very important for me to further my activism in the society, looking more into education, and human capital development. So just to share with you, I just completed my sabbatical within this week, inshallah, starting to work in December. Within this 9 months of my sabbatical, I actually completed my master's in clinical education with University of Melbourne. So that is after I obtained my graduate diploma in clinical teaching in 2014, and with that I actually eligible for my graduate diploma in clinical education, which I took in 2015. And with these 4 semesters, I just need to do another 2 semesters, which is what I'm doing this year. And inshallah, I just submitted my thesis of 10,440 words of a qualitative study. So this is actually a commitment that to take place into the society, and being an academician, I choose to use that position. Am I going to be a politician? I don't think so, because I think it would not do me justice. It will just going to confine me to a very small area of activism. So I guess overarching is actually more on the educational component. And as I was looking through my slides just now, gosh, there's so many, I can actually talk on so many areas. And of course, I don't claim that I'm actually an expert in all that, but those are the things within my radar. Yeah, and of course, the amount of concern, and I have to be very grateful to the family, my family, because I guess if any one of you are actually trying to come up with excuses saying that, oh, my family needs me, well, you see, sometimes it's not that the family, you are just coming up with the reasons and your own, liability. But instead of using my family as my liability, I actually would like to say here that my family is actually the most important motivation behind all this thing. I have to take note of what is happening in the society, because I'm going to send my children to become part of this society. So rather than my family is my liability, I would say my family is actually the most important motivation as to why am I still doing all this. It's my family. Okay, so it's up to you, ladies. If you're actually going to use your family as your liability, nobody is going to dispute you. It is a very acceptable reason. Uzur syar'i, and you can always say, I cannot go to Usra because, my husband just came back from outstation, my children is not well, Kakak is going to have her exam. One after another, you use your family as your liability, and good luck, your family is going to be your liability. But if you instead look at your family as your motivation to sort of, it's your family that is the main, inspiration for you to do whatever you have to do, then you will see that family, the reason why you are, the family is going to look after themselves, and not just themselves, looking after you. Kan? I see, do family. So, you just have to answer this in front of Allah, I'm afraid that Allah will say, what? Your family? No, that's not your family. The family are fine. You are the main reason. So please, before you want to say anything to be a very acceptable alibi, I hope you really have to justify and be very true to yourself.
Inshallah.
Okay.
Very stunned.
Sorry.
It's like, oh, mashallah. But Dr. Har managing to, within her very busy and schedule, but still, you know, learning, continuing to learn, and just you know, received a master's in education, mashallah. I guess, and it sounds like what you're saying is that, you know, we should be using everything around us as our assets to move forward, and actually as our motivating factor. Use our profession, our position, our passion to find where we can contribute back to society, and bring our family with us.
And, don't leave them behind. Okay.
But Dr. Har, the question is, how do you balance all this? Because because, you know, it sounds that, you know,
that is another FAQ.
Oh, okay.
You know, how do you balance, and how do you juggle your life? And then I say, you know, this juggling and balancing act is all in circus. So you think that I'm running a circus? No way. You know, you can come to my house and you see how well orderly and nice my house is. Okay, you know, okay, I understand that. But before, it's always the reporter or journalist who want to have some write up on me. They will always ask these questions. Before I answer that, I will ask them first. Have you ever asked this question to a guy or a band? You know, Prof or so and so. How do you juggle and how do you balance, you know, your roles as a CEO of this company, and as a father or a husband? No, they never ask a man that, you know, but they have to ask a woman. So you know why you don't ask a man? Because you say that, the wife is there to look after all that. So the same goes with me. I become like this because I have a husband who look after all that as well. Okay, so that's the main. I mean, that's a logical answer. But again, you know, you have to know how to prioritize. Okay, and to me, that is how I balance things out. In work-life balance, you know, that is actually 3 components. There is family, career, and yourself. And if you look at it as a fulcrum system, okay, where a seesaw at the playground, that fulcrum is you, and that weight, you know, on the left and the right is actually your work, your career, and another one is your family. Now, if family matters at that time requiring your immediate attention or your focus, then you, as the fulcrum, has to be there. But let's say the family is doing well, okay, and you can take more responsibility on the professional side, then your fulcrum will go, you know, to profession. But you have to know your priorities. So that's why another book that you need to read, you can baca kan, it's actually Life by Linda Ayer and the husband. Life balance spelled with one word. It is actually as a noun, not life balance. It's life balance. This husband and wife propose that you must have 3 balance, 3 types of balance. One is priority balance. You know, you must know when your family needs you, when you can actually delegate your responsibility to another person, and stop feeling guilty. That's another thing. You only get consumed by your guilt. Why? You know? And your children is actually going to, manipulate you. You know, if you are all the time feeling guilty, don't feel guilty, lah. You know, you are doing your responsibility, and the children will be fine. Okay. So there is actually priority balance. The second balance is goal balance. Goal balance is about objectives. Okay, you have to set your objective right. Which one is long term, short term, intermediate term. And the last one, I actually got this last balance to be the one that is putting everything in place, which is called attitude balance. Now, in attitude balance, it's when you plan your days, but you also prepare for the unplanned. And this is where we always sort of, if you don't have this balance, you will always feel that, I make this plan and suddenly something turned out and my plan all went into the drain, and that's it. No. You know, in attitude balance, it is actually the balance between structure and spontaneity, you know, discipline and with spontaneousness. And this is and in attitude balance, this is when you are going to experience serendipity. I do not know whether now what is serendipity? Serendipity means accidental happiness that you don't plan, it just happened, you know. and it comes from the story of Prince Serendip, who was supposed to sail away and get whose father was sick, and the remedies in one island. So Prince Serendip actually sailed away to this island, but they got caught in a storm or something like that, and he was casted away in an isolated island with the experience, but he ended up having more than just the remedy for his father. So that is called the accidental happiness, and there is serendipity. And you can only have serendipity if you have attitude balance. And this is when I have all planned. Of course, my planner have by 2 months it's all filled up. But suddenly, let's say when I have talk tomorrow, and 2 days ago somebody called me, the organizers, and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Prof, we have to cancel the program because of whatever." I used to be very angry with that, because I said, you should have told me earlier so that I can put in another program, whatever. But now, with this attitude balance, I feel so happy because, there will be something more exciting happening on Saturday. Because it's supposed to be, for that program, but now it has been cancelled, and I cannot wait for that Saturday. And just mark my word, there's so many other things that will happen on that Saturday. So, and this made me a very... I wouldn't say I don't plan things, no, but I'm very confident with what is going to happen. Nothing is going to be bad. It's all going to be okay. Ajab ali amrul mu'min, miraculous and extraordinary is the affair of a believer. If he's being tried with some tribulation, he will be patient, and that's good for him or her. And if he's actually having good tidings, and he or she is grateful, and that's good for her. So I hope you have all that balance, And
I think it goes really well with what you were saying in the car about about how Allah has actually given us, our journey is specific to us, like how our clothes fit us. So something that happens in our life is not a coincidence. It was meant to be, and there's a reason for it, and it is the best for us. So when we realize that what Allah has given us is perfect. It's perfect. It's just we have to see it in its perfectness, right? And it's what Allah wants to give us. So inshallah, that's motivation to myself. Alhamdulillah. The last one is a bit of a maybe slightly technical, but the question is, what is your or the rationale on your opinion of the sunat for girls?
Oh, that would be another hour of lecture, because I presented this to the Majlis Fatwa Perlis, and you can actually Google for their most recent fatwa on circumcision, or khitan anak perempuan, which was actually commissioned and gazetted in April, if I'm not mistaken. So from the perspective of medical perspective, I don't quite recommend it, because we as doctors, we are not being trained to do female circumcision. Not like male circumcision, it's a basic surgical procedure that's being taught. Because technically speaking, we are supposed to remove the prepuce or the foreskin that covers the penis. But of course, in women, the structure which is analogous to penis would be clitoris. So of course, there is actually this clitoral hood, or this redundant skin that covers the clitoris. But it's unlike penis, which is so well developed. So we don't even know where that clitoral hood, you cannot actually locate that in a small baby. Okay. Now, my opinion is that there are some women who might have this hood or this prepuce or this skin to be more elongated and redundant, I would say. Okay, this means we are over time. Okay, now and sometimes it's quite thickened, and this is what we as obstetrician notice when we are delivering women. And I cannot help wondering that it might have interfered with the sexual arousal and pleasure because it covers the clitoris. So these are women who should be up to them, but they can actually have a surgical, some reconstructive surgery called clitoroplasty, where they can actually remove that clitoris. But this is for grown-up women and not for all women, okay? So what worries me is that the reason behind female circumcision is very chauvinistic. I'm sorry, yeah. Most of the parents who insisted that I circumcise their female babies is always because, oh, I do not want my daughter to cannot control her sexual, urge and become, or maybe a hypersexual or, and starts to go around. I think that is not the reason why circumcision is being performed. It's just to curb sexual pleasure, okay? And I think it's very chauvinistic. So I did not do it, yeah. And well, this is more or less a personal opinion. Of course, I know there is actually, the mazhab are differing in opinion, yeah. But for myself, I have enough ground to sort of be of an opinion that I would not sort of perform that. Yeah. But as I said, it should be the choice of the woman once they are grown up and they can actually reevaluate that. And I think the reason behind why you are doing it is innamal a'malu binniyat, and if I could, of course, this is something that I asked my husband to help me. There is no report or recorded hadith on the event where the Prophet actually had circumcision for the daughter. So it means that, of course, things like that would have been reported. Yeah, so we're not sure whether he did it but not being reported. Yeah, but we know the hadith whereby the Sahabiah actually asked Prophet Rasulullah SAW about circumcision because the practice has been done way before Islam. Yeah, and the main reason why it has been for some mazhab to say that it is strongly recommended is based on the men. Based on men's reason. If it's beneficial for men, then of course it's beneficial for women. And this is what I argue with the fatwa. So this is one thing that that principle might not apply. You cannot just make that decision. And I think we can be exposed the biology and the whole technical thing about it. But since we have that knowledge, so I think we are in a position to make a better decision. Allah.
And actually, just for information, here in the UK, that is whatever what do you call it? Attempt to sort of to modify anything in that area is called female genital mutilation is illegal and actually has to be reported by all medical professionals. So it is absolutely illegal here in the UK. But obviously there are different severities done in other countries and other cultures. Alhamdulillah, I think our natural time, what do you call it? Time alarm was already berbunyi-bunyi. So inshallah, I think alhamdulillah, thank you so much, Dr. Har, for answering all those questions. And maybe as a last sort of closing summary to your talk tonight before we close off.
Okay, I want you to go to bed tonight telling yourself that you are actually a very important agent of change. And you know what? You are the culprit. You are the one who have to change first before you can talk about changing others. And you would not be able to be successful in your mission of changing others before you can change yourself. So please, ladies, start looking at that face in the mirror, differently. You are important, you are enough, you don't depend on others. You don't be married to a prophet. Yeah, in Surah Tahrim, verses 9, 10, 11, and 12. Where you might be the wife of Lut alayhi salam or Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, but that does not guarantee you Jannah. Yeah, but you might be married to the worst man on earth, which is Fir'aun, and yet Allah actually listen to your prayer of wanting a house in Jannah. And of course, even if you are not married, like Maryam, daughter of Imran, so Allah will still regard you, as a very pious person if you look after yourself. So, ladies, we can claim our Jannah without our men. Okay, so, well, I'm not saying that, you can be very rude to your men, no, but if you are married to a man who wants to emulate Rasulullah SAW, then most probably it's easier for you to go to Jannah together. But if you happen to be married to somebody who is totally opposite, that might be a bit problematic, because you might not have the opportunity to go to Jannah because you're being dragged to hell with him. It is actually, well, sometimes men, when they say, oh, you're not going to go to Jannah because you disobey me. Well, the reason why we cannot go to Jannah is because he's pulling us to hell with him. As if something he said it as if he's already in Jannah. So this is something that you have to know, that you have your own right to claim your Jannah. That has been ordained to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of who you're married to, okay? Or even if you are not married to anyone else, okay? So ladies, don't worry, insyaAllah, mudah-mudahan, we'll see each other in Jannah as sisters and neighbors, insyaAllah. Wallahu a'lam.
Inshallah, alhamdulillah, from that slightly prolonged session. As usual, Dr. has so many things to share and precious gems of knowledge. Inshallah, hopefully that's a start for us to start looking at ourselves and making the change within ourselves, Dr. Han, so that we can start making changes out there in society.
And stop complaining, okay? Stop complaining
around us, inshallah, and to claim our own journey and our own Jannah, inshallah. Okay, again, jazakallah Dr. Har for being with us today. Alhamdulillah, thank you to everyone who has joined us here and also online. And we hope that this has been beneficial for everyone. And inshallah, we hope to see everyone again soon, inshallah. Okay, inshallah, we close off our session tonight with Tasbih Kepada dan Surah Salam. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, signing off.